Hi everyone, my name is Sarah Mari. I'm one of the librarians at Portland Public Library in Portland, Maine, and today I'm here to talk to you about simple machines. Now, what do you think simple machines are? You can take a second and think about it. What might simple machines be? Well, I'll give you a hint. When we think of machines, a lot of time we think about something that uses power or electricity of some kind, like a blender or a digger or a machine like that. But it's actually even simpler than that. And you might not realize that we use these simple machines every single day for all kinds of things. There are 6 simple machines, and we're going to find out about them with 2 books that I have today. The first book is called Simple Machines. And it is, ooh, look at all these simple machines that they're showing you. This book is written by DJ Ward and illustrated by Mike Lowry and published by HarperCollins. So let's find out what is a simple machine and see if it matches what your guess was. Have you ever had to move something really heavy? How did you do it? Here he is with his toys. Did you grab it from underneath and lift it with all your might? Did you lean in your shoulder and give it a push? Did you tie a rope to it and pull, pull, pull? Or did you use a machine? With a machine, you don't have to lift or pull or push so hard. Machines make work easier. Here, try this. Thanks, Dad. That's why machines are everywhere. Look around your neighborhood. We use machines that help us get around. Machines help us dig and build and knock things down. They help us reach way up high. Cars, bulldozers, and lawnmowers are all machines with lots of moving parts. But not all machines are so complicated. Some are so simple that you might not even think of them as machines. They are called simple machines, and here are the 6. A lever, a wheel and axle, a pulley, a ramp, a wedge, and a screw. These are the simple machines. Did that match up with what you were thinking? Think about a seesaw. You sit on one end of a long board. Your friend sits on the other. Up I go. The board rests on something in the middle that lets each end tip up and down. By pushing down on your end of the board, you can make your friend go up. Have you ever tried to lift your friend without using a seesaw? It's hard, isn't it? The seesaw makes lifting your friend easier. It's a simple machine. So here's lever. The seesaw is a simple machine called a lever. All levers have 2 parts. The first part is a board or rod that won't bend or break easily. The second part is something that will let the lever turn or tip. This is called the fulcrum. When you push down on one end of the seesaw, the other end goes up. When your end lifts up, the other side goes down. But imagine instead of making your friend go up is easy because you're both about the same weight. But imagine instead if your mom or dad were on the other side. They weigh much more than you, and it would be very hard to make them go up. You might get stuck high off the ground. But if we change the seesaw, you can lift them up. Move the fulcrum closer to your mom or dad so there is more of the board on your side. Push down on the long side. The closer the fulcrum is to your mom or dad, the easier they will be to lift. If you have a long enough lever, you could even lift an elephant. So the long lever with the fulcrum really close to the heavy thing. Levers are not only good for making us stronger, they can also make things go faster. Pick up a stick and wave it back and forth in the air. Can you see that the end of the stick moves very fast? You're using your stick as a lever and your wrist as the fulcrum. You move your wrist a little and the end of the stick moves a lot. Baseball bats work this way. With a twist of your wrist, you make the end of the bat move really fast, hit the ball with a fast-moving bat, and the ball goes fast too. A lever is one kind of simple machine, but there are more. See, here's the rod, there's the fulcrum, and crack! Home run! Wheel and axle. For instance, a doorknob is a simple machine called a wheel and axle. A wheel and axle is a wheel with a rod sticking out of the middle. Here's the wheel, there's the axle. When you turn the wheel, the rod turns too. The wheel is there to make the rod turn easier. A steering wheel is another wheel and axle. The steering wheel is connected to the rod. When you turn the steering wheel, it turns the rod. The rod steers your front wheels where you want them to go. But what if your car didn't have a steering wheel? What if you have to steer by grabbing the rod and trying to twist it? It would not be easy, that's for sure. The next machine is a pulley. What would you do if you had to lift something way up high, even higher than you could reach? You might use a simple machine called a pulley. A pulley is a wheel with a groove in it. A rope goes over the pulley, and the groove keeps the rope from falling off the wheel. As you pull the rope down one side of the pulley, the rope goes up the other side. Have you ever seen someone raise a flag up a flagpole? There's a pulley, there's a pulley. There's a pulley at the top of the pole. The flag is attached to a rope that hangs over the pulley. When the person pulls down on one side of the rope, the flag is pulled up the other side. That's way easier than climbing up the pole. Used in groups, pulleys can help you lift things that are heavier than flags. The more pulleys you use, the easier it is to lift something. With enough pulleys, you could lift a rhinoceros. Groups of pulleys lift you when you use the elevator. Here are some pulleys there, and down here, which include a counterweight that helps them lift up by the electric motor. Going up. Ramp. Ladders can be fun to climb, but what if you had to use one any time that you wanted to go up or down? You would get tired of climbing ladders all day. Instead, we use stairs, which make going up and down easier. Stairs are a kind of simple machine called a ramp, or an inclined plane. As you go up a ramp, you are not just going up, you are also going forward at the same time. That takes much less energy than going straight up. The lower the angle of the ramp, the easier it is to climb. The pyramids in Egypt were built thousands of years ago. They were made by stacking many large blocks of stone one upon another. Back then there were no cranes for lifting such heavy things. Guess how the Egyptians got heavy stone blocks up so high? They used ramps. Imagine a tall, round birthday cake. Then imagine you got a big slice of cake. Yum! Lying on your plate, it looks like a ramp, doesn't it? Now, if you flip the piece of cake over, it still looks like a ramp. That's because it has a ramp on both sides. An object with a ramp on both sides is another kind of simple machine called a wedge. Simple machine wedges are made of hard materials, though, not cake. An axe head is a wedge. Have you ever seen anyone chop a log with an axe? When the person swings the axe head down into the log, the metal wedge pushes apart the wood, and it splits the log. Wedges help us split things or push them apart. Screw. Did you ever look closely at a screw? Through a magnifying glass, a screw looks like a tiny ramp, except for the ramp twists around as it goes up. Believe it or not, a screw is a simple machine. It is a ramp with a twist. Not all screws are so tiny. As you walk up a spiral staircase, you are walking up and going around at the same time. Some parking garages have driveways that spiral up to higher levels. These are big examples of a screw. Sometimes, to get a job done, it's best to work as a team. When a team of simple machines work together, they become a compound machine. Compound machines can do a job even more easily than one simple machine could. In fact, most machines you see every day are compound machines. They can be as simple as a pair of scissors or as complex as a car. You might not be building a pyramid. You might not want to lift an elephant. Even so, simple machines are good to have around. You might want to open a door, turn the wheel and axle. You might ride your bike down the street. Just pedal those levers. And you might want to help your family do some work around the house. That's great. You can use a simple machine for that. Simple machines make work easier after all. Spot more simple machines. Here's some more examples. Lever, like a boat oar or soda can lid. Wheel and axle, like a wagon wheel or a screwdriver. A pulley, like blinds on a window or a well. A ramp, like a mountain road that zigs back and forth. Or a truck ramp. A wedge like a knife or the bow of a boat as it moves forward. A screw like a car jack or a door lid. There's a glossary that tells you the definitions of the words that we used, and then some ways to find out more, and some websites that you can visit if you want to find out more about simple machines. We are going to read another book to find out more about simple machines. This one is called Simple Machines, Wheels, Levers, and Pulleys by David A. Adler and illustrated by Anna Raff. This book is published by Holiday House. Simple machines, wheels, levers, and pulleys. Machines make work easier. Look in a mirror. Smile. You are looking at a whole set of simple machines, a whole set of wedges. A wedge is thin at one end and wide at another. It's a simple machine that helps break things apart. Teeth are wedges. When you bite into an apple, the sharp, thin ends of your teeth split the apple. Your teeth change the up and down direction of your bite into a sideways force that splits the apple into pieces small enough to swallow. An axe is also a wedge. A lumberjack drives his axe into a log. He swings the axe down and the log splits apart. The force of the lumberjack's swing drives the wedge into the log. The wedge changes the downward direction of the force into a sideways force that breaks the log into smaller pieces. A pair of scissors is a pair of wedges that work together. Thumbtacks, pins, nails, shovels, forks, knives, and chisels are also wedges. Many boats are wedges. The front is narrow so that it can push easily through water. Have you ever played on a slide? If you have, you've played on a simple machine. Stand at the top of the slide and look down. It's hard to drop straight down, but sliding down is not hard at all. It's fun. A slide is an inclined plane, sometimes called a ramp. It's a flat surface with one end higher than the other. An inclined plane makes it easier to climb up and down. It might make it easier to carry things up and down. Imagine having to lift a box loaded with bowling balls. Lifting the box would be difficult. Pushing it up a ramp would be easier. The more gradual the slope of the ramp, the easier the work. Of course, the more gradual the slope, the further you have to push the box. An inclined plane gets the same work done with less force or effort over a greater distance. Roads often twist around mountains. The roads would be shorter if they went straight up, but a road that went straight up a mountain would be too steep to drive. Mountain roads are inclined planes. The more gradual the slope of the road, the easier the drive, but the more gradual the slope of the mountain road, the greater the distance that you have to drive to reach the top. Inclined planes are used to load trucks and make it easier for people in wheelchairs to get around. A screw is an inclined plane that goes around a straight metal nail. It takes a great amount of force to push a nail into a piece of wood. Turning and pushing a screw into the wood is easier. When you push and turn the screw, you are moving it along a circular inclined plane. Have you ever played on a seesaw? If you have, you've played on do you remember from last time? What is it called? A lever, a simple machine. The lever has two parts, a solid bar and a pivot. The pivot is sometimes called a fulcrum. On the seesaw, a long board with a seat on each end is a solid bar. The platform in the center doesn't move. It's the pivot. The person on the other end of the seesaw may weigh as much as you do or more. But with a seesaw, you can lift your friend easily. That's because a seesaw is a lever. It's a simple machine that makes lifting easier. Lifting a load with effort. A shovel can be a lever. Find a shovel with a long handle. Take it to a sandbox or to a beach. First, load the shovel with sand. Hold it both hands at the far end and lift. It's difficult. The load feels really heavy. Now leave one hand at the end and move one to the middle and lift. The load feels lighter. Your hand at the end is providing the lifting force. Your hand in the middle is the pivot. You're using the shovel as a lever, and it's making it easier to lift the sand. Have you ever tried to move something heavy? It's difficult to push or pull a heavy box along the ground. It's friction, the rubbing on the bottom of the box against the ground, that makes the box so difficult to move. It's a lot easier to move the box if it's in a wagon. The wheels and axles on the wagon make your work easier. The wheel and axle is just a large wheel attached to a small wheel. The small wheel is the axle. The wheel and the axle is a simple machine. It reduces friction. Only the bottoms of the wheel on the wagon touch the ground. That's a lot smaller area than the entire bottom of the box. With less rubbing on the ground, there's less friction. A wheel and axle also multiplies the distance that something turns. Have you ever been to an amusement park? Have you ever been on a Ferris wheel? A Ferris wheel is a good example of how wheels and axles multiply the distance that something turns. The axle in the middle of the Ferris wheel is attached to the motor. The motor supplies the power that turns the axle. The axle turns the Ferris wheel. The axle is just a small wheel. It doesn't make a big circle when it makes one complete turn, but the attached Ferris wheel does make a big circle. And one complete turn of the Ferris wheel, each seat on the wheel goes a long way. On the Ferris wheel, the distance the axle is turned is multiplied. A wheel and axle can also be used not to multiply the distance, but to multiply the force used to turn the axle. You do that every day. Every time you turn on a faucet, you're turning a wheel and axle. The faucet knob is the wheel. It's attached to a shaft, the rod that turns the water on and off. That thin shaft is the axle. Turning just the shaft, just the middle part, would be very difficult. The knob is larger and easier to turn because the knob multiplies the force. The larger the knob, the easier it is to turn the shaft. Some wheels are attached to the axle, some are not. The front wheel of a tricycle is attached to the axle. The axle is attached to the pedals. When riders turn the pedals of their tricycle, they are turning the axles that turn the front wheels. It's the front wheel that pulls the tricycle forward. The back wheels of a tricycle are not attached to the axle. They spin around it. Many machines need gears to make them work. A gear is a wheel with teeth. Gears can change the speed, power, and direction of a machine's work. Combine a wheel and an axle with some rope, and you have a pulley. The flagpole uses a pulley. The pulley is at the very top of the pole. You don't have to climb the pole just to raise the flag. You just pull down on the rope and the flag goes up. The pulley at the top of the pole changes the direction of your pulling force. For every foot of rope that you pull down, the flag raises 1 foot. The flagpole uses a fixed pulley. It's fixed or attached to the top of the pole. Many curtains and window blinds used fixed pulleys. What if you added a pulley, one that moved up and down with the flag? Now you are using 2 pulleys. You have to pull the rope further to get it around both pulleys. You have to pull it more than 1 foot to raise it that much, but the pulling is easier. The more pulleys that you add, the less force or effort you need. Next time that you pass a construction site, look at the cranes, the large machines used to lift heavy objects. You'll see a pulley, probably several, between the top of the crane and whatever it's lifting. With the pulleys, the motor in the crane needs less lifting power. The end. I hope that you learned some things about simple machines. Take a look around your house and see what simple machines that you can find. Maybe we listed them here, or maybe there's something different that you can think of. If you find something really cool, let us know in the comments. My name is Sarah Mari. I'm one of the librarians at Portland Public Library in Portland, Maine. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.